So then you are a answer us. Oh, how did you get your answer without asking the question?
So in the morning, the intensity was high. I slept well. The intensity was low. Then we had this 8 verse. Then it has a similar kind of feeling. So my question was at that time. We were talking about the poisons, right? So when she asked a question about, she started her question with whenever are closed ones. So the answer was always given for those people. We have to think for them. But I think when we start this question, are closed ones, we already have an attachment to it, which already a poison. So how do we address that? Am I making sense? I don't know.
With
we were always referring to work on, those people, think about them. Why can't I start from myself that I am sick right now? Because I have an expectation from those. When I'm already saying closed ones, there is a lot of poison is there.
then Quran tiwa de dir thagi shoba ani zinda thangba yongdu zamba ani thona ya shuchimbo chedu dosra kaina na this subus bir sangbo da sorsas dene khali galiya subu dis nyop to chadu das ta yena ya tiwa di ani len thapgen da boche sonsra Quran tiwa khande doles lana manzu gi da mi shin la ra shinden thendo nye ro re la ti manzu shigi ro as ti shin de zamba ani manzogi ane susugi ningnyo ra nyela soba ane tezola yang samshi chego res ra ta nyumung tusumgi shiwando dronas ra shenge ane chajo nyemba la soba pena yang ra manzogi tezogi chedo yang ane shenden tuendo nyego re lan sungu yoro was ta di sung yundu zamba ane shenge tuenda chedo chego re mambo sungu yoro was yena yang ane samla chikta yundu zamba tagin geshima chirangi tiwa kui nasa sonzola nyumung tusum la etikola ani nganzugi ngala lotha nyebo yin ra ani ngagi nyi yin la etende gi dushe ji yonas ra te korangi ani nganzu tukjik da docha ra docha gi chaji yoder was cheza ani tagi nganzu chik mission la chik chego yona redo da we ra tende gi ani masimba gi chego re la sunga ge je di da len tegen ro che sons
네, 대배하고다. 지당한저 미치길래잖아. 신바게 남도 고도도 다 세더나 배하고라. 지당한저 다 담보한저 도만의 슈버에 말아서 사만 난자체 수수기 삼수 가래나 수수기 지시고야긴데 바 가래. 사마딜레 파시 치시가 인디치온도가 실리실리 팽이도. 다 미치길래잖아. 신바게 레라도나 대에 팽고라. 지당한저 삼마 추루체 아주 참만님 지미 바치지 대원데 바동에면데 바치지 대마인 방아저 직단 남배기 톤시오나 레당 렌데기 온기라 레기 온가서 에네니 진냠도 잠바라 아 지단연 뒤비 타마테와라 산이니 싫어서서 두고래 제가 엔데 차대오라 제가 단다 경기 되어디 드마고비 레토 미심바기 라바데야 먼저 찍le 시디 찍le 펜데야도 차거라 대배아버레스라 아니 심바리랑 좋아요나 티로치스라
So I find it very important that in such courses that we are able to kind of share what we think, any kind of doubts that we have, or any kind of insight that we have with the group, because I think it not only helps ourselves, but it also helps the group as a whole to kind of think about it from a different perspective. And I'm very happy that through the discussion, the question that you had was somehow answered through the discussion. And this is exactly the reason why I encourage questions as well as sharings in these courses. Now, it is, I advise all of us to make the most of these course by trying to ask questions, by trying to share any insights that you have, because from the Buddhist perspective, it is not due to a random set of circumstances that we have come here together. It is due to karmic connections that we have gathered here as a group. Even though it is the case that at the end of every meeting there is a separation, so from tomorrow onwards we'll go about our own ways, but with the time that we have with each other, it is important to make that time constructive, to be open with each other. Yes.
Sida ko tizu tsundu yina nga zo ima chingni me da mena susu tina thana de ba jida mitsu na lo sana ta da jira ta maung ba susu me mitsu che de la chige pen thona de go ra ani zamna nga zo ene so ne chuji pu do chembo chembo la le ro ta de chembo chembo de yor ra tinde ro je nga zo ja tizu yo ma de ya nga zo kala ore mam보지 장 고선은 단 주사 차사면은 제대로 시다. 단다디 치뉴뉴르데 빼 고지 유니지르다라 로저 시지마다도 중은데 맞아 라레 따야라 깔레 카보 게시타 투나 아니 지게 소소게다 미치 데장도 많이 챈데 치마니자라 페 봐. 대 저시마 케말렌지네 챈딜라 가서 딘데기 미 디나로 숨바다시 미치 제도는데 항상이 미 아버지 차게 드려다. 세상에서 다 지마치 다가라 제마도네 되게 쇼잖지라. 디나로라 라네 데가도 나도 상주 선바다 드네미다 이네 소소소라 람사 미미세 당선데 야문다. 라 이네 간두지도 셰데 가와도 이네 가와 데와이나 냐네 딱딱치 간두지도 셰데 패키지마다. 라
So then I stress this again that when you attend such courses like this, it is important to make the short time that we have with each other a meaningful one. And in order to ensure that it is meaningful and constructive, it is important for us to be open with each other and to ask and share without hesitation. And now when we are talking about the pursuit of a spiritual practice, then many people have the idea that if they study the deeply philosophical works, the profound spiritual literatures, then that in itself will help us to cultivate an effective spiritual practice. Even though the act of the study of these deeply philosophical works as well as spiritual works are admirable, we should, as someone who strives for spirituality, we should be able to have something practical that we can adopt in our daily lives, something which can help us to approach our daily lives with a sense of joy. So as such, I find such texts as these two that we have studied very, very effective and beneficial. So even though the practices that are taught in these texts, even though they are difficult to adopt immediately, but it gives us something to aspire for. And by contemplating on these practices, we can make some small changes in our lives to reframe our responses better to our situations in our lives.
아니 싫어 심바도 같이 좋아야 게를 좋아해야 된다. 틸레트는 되고라.
So then many of you approach me saying that you have questions, so I advise you to make the use of the time here we have in the session itself to ask these questions. Yes?
So going back to the first day, we were talking about how we were talking about laziness, and there were three kinds of laziness. And one of them was about how we do something meaningless instead of doing something meaningful with our time. So how do we define what is meaningful and meaningless? Because to someone, for example, to my family, this retreat is meaningless, but to me it is meaningful. And for me, some career is meaningful, and the same career would be, pursuing that career would be meaningless to my family. So how do we know?
Tini nganzo gi nima Thangpa de lasra, ani lelo iko la tridu chero was. Lelo namba sum chero was. Ani chik di chawa nishingi lelo la chisung was. Ani gewe chawa, yana tuenda nabe chawa chikla mashuk nesra. Te ani sabdo ani chawa nyamba la shukba. Tume ki chawa la shukba. Tende chila kogido was. Ta nganzo ki tuenda nabe chawa la chora. Di khandres nganzo ki da tsingi ro, tse ro simguru besra. Pena chasha nasra kurang gergi nyuwa la pa tuknasra. Yani kurangi nami ra. Ki yani tanda nganzo de la zinda tsuwaya la moranyam shuchi jojo ra. Di tuenda denpa mayimba chila ngunzi chigi yores. Yana ya kurang gergi samlatana di ngone tuenda denpa chila ngunzi chigi yores. Tena shin yani dendreki genda mambo jungudu was. Mi susu nangmi da dendreki yani susu ki lekha ina ya lekha tuenda denpa mayimba la ngunzi chiya rawa. Yang susu gergi che doba ani tuenda denpa la ngunzi chiya rawa jora. Chezan tuenda denpa ra lae ki yani nganzo ki tse rawa la na tsingi rawa jora. Kandis zinguru yes.
Stangi ta tuenda denpa la digala ra susu shadang dhamma la yire. Ine ya man domro jao na nganzo susu la ngaranzo ta shogi ni gonda pato nganzo karwe chigi ina susu dewa waya chidi chigor ra. Ta dinde indi gal chi nganzo ichi kala tseya ina togu roshi tseya ina kande ina susu chibu waya chidi chigor ra. Dinde indi gal ta ngaranzo la chi miji inbi shigo la nganzo lolo chir. Lolo dedu mambu chayo godwa. Ra. Kesi chirangi dinde jishung roji la jangani ani chirangi semba chibu waya tang ani chi maomba ina saro sano tangi shijirani ra. Ta chirampe chewa shimada dinde kemala ina mitsi digi nalo la chuba yakbo da ani dinde giri ta dina mambu chi labu da. Di lalen tawa la tena chirangi mitsi dila dechi unsa ra unsa mara. Ra. Dinde di dechi unsa ki shijila nga zogi labal honyi dewa da Thosamling honyi china di tuenda denpa re dore mi ra. Di susu tayar ra. Miji ki tuenda denpa re tsinze che manje shilo tayar ma ta ngaranzo ki susu dewa dewa da dungi mi de chitangi dewa unsa ki shiji ki lega chewa na ta nga tuenda denpa re chitsogo ra. Chitangi ya nga tuenda denpa re kozo dewa shadang tsengi na shana dewa ngomo mabuji chaya ra.
So then, without getting into the technicalities of what exactly is a meaningful thing or not, we can begin to kind of relate it to our own experiences and then make sense of it. So when we say what exactly is a meaningful thing, then think about it in this manner. From the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you retire to your bed, whatever you do in between, what exactly are you doing it for? For a sense of happiness. Even if we eat food, even if we do anything, we do it for to achieve a sense of happiness. So if something offers you a sense of happiness, that is in itself meaningful. So, but with that being said, as human beings, our mind experiences a lot of different moments of pain and pleasure and so forth. So it is important that we find the meaning of happiness in what we do. And so as such, as you at this point are attending this course, then in this moment, are you happy attending it? Right? And then also, does this course help you in the future to be happy, to be more happy? And if it meets all of these kind of criterion, then your answer is evident now. And the answer that you are looking for is evident now. And so when we think about it in this manner, we should not let our ideas about what is meaningful or not be defined by someone else's expectation. It really comes down to what makes us happy. And happy herein meaning true sense of happiness.
Chine nga zo shuchik na karla na tanda dewa la diga la susu ki ta mi ilu reji tayo ra. Ti so chik togo tangso ta tanda chibu mayim tada chik kala saya tada sunje yin shebaji na zitu da. Nga zo di mayingi chi shenpeng sanu tang tuya shi ra. Susu chibu mayim pa shengi pensi ki. 소소 도고 다 체 고르 때 가서 류들 된대지라 땡고 고르 때 대점지 많이 봐 파기 팬지 팬토야기 나가지 봐 계식 팬토 마도는 네 맞이 먼저 네 간듯이 하고 말이 계시 시디가라 세단 디만디가라 밀레니체 용스그레 류기 난주고네 용스그레 아니 로데 고는도 저기 두자가라 봐 그러니까 간데 있는 용스그라 도저 소소소 님은 따바 따지체도 베케점 근데 아버지 좋아해나 다 던데 맞지 좋아
So really, that is the purpose and that is the meaning of our lives. The meaning and purpose of our lives is happiness. And now, so we should be careful with the manner in which we define our sense of happiness. Because if our sense of happiness is only concerned with earning a livelihood or a form of sustenance, then we really are not so much different from the animals. Even the animals are able to take care of these kind of basic concerns of sustenance and so forth. So maybe our sense of happiness must take into account the welfare of others too, to ensure that if you can, to be of service and benefit to others. What you are doing or pursuing in life should be of benefit and of service to others. If that is not the case, then at least to ensure that if you are not helping others, to ensure that you are not actively harming others. Because if we are not mindful, we do not realize the manner in which what we do harms others. So that's why we say we have to be mindful of what goes on in our mind and how it manifests itself in our behavior.
단 남바지 임비천 단 같은 거도 엔데시오이나 밀라 팬토 치나 수술 가르 팽이를 내지라 수술 뒤서라다 수술 가르진 근데 질러 다 사지도 통과라 다 남바다 제가 심하케레니지나 단데 수술 밀라 바 팬서 제 단데 제와이나 디긴 데부 잠보치 그 라시고 먹을라나다 렌데 로아메 바인디가라 아니 수술에 주마이나 지게 강에 마티야다 단데 수술 밀라 바로 바치네 디긴 데부 나메긴 데부 단 데부 mam부지라 디라 수술에 녀야라 다 이내 단당아서 바치 데부 집을 산타야 말아 파길을 피기 니지게다 제와이고는 제와이나 야가도 안 파지체는 지지를 뒤지마이게 심바들 라시 오토매틱리 오이로 차려라
So herein, many people have the reaction when, from the Buddhist perspective, we say that the true sense of happiness that we experience is derived from wishing happiness for others and being of service and benefit to others. Many people have the impression maybe that this does not practically make sense, that all these sacrifices that you make for the sake of others is a waste of time, you do not get anything in return. So this is maybe a very, very narrow way of thinking about it. We as Buddhists believe that the principle of karma is infallible. So we think beyond this life. We think that any act of kindness, compassion and love that we engage in this life sows the seeds for the effect to ripen in a future life. Now, from the Buddhist perspective, this is a very, very narrow view still, that our acts of compassion and love, kindness should still be free from such concerns. But even if we say that, okay, I do not have any kind of selfish motivations with which I approach my acts of kindness, since the principle of law and karma is infallible, the effects of these acts of compassion, love and kindness will manifest itself in our future lives.
What do I
Questions?
Wouldn't that make it selfish as well? Because we know that in the future we will leave those.
That's exactly why I said from the Buddhist perspective, that is a very narrow way of thinking about it. Ideally, we should be able to engage in acts of kindness, love and compassion without any selfish concern, without a sense, without an expectation, without any expectation.
Yeah.
With children and adolescents, it's usually when they suffer. The things which they suffer from is their parents, their things happening around them, the way their peers treat them, and it's usually their focus is towards changing their parents, changing the things happening around them, right? But from the Buddhist perspective, as we have studied, it's all about ourselves, the way we handle it. But they are dependent, still they are developing. So what would be the right way to deal with a child who's suffering from all of this, considering their developmental age?
Tamoi dilog to chibada ra manja den de tsar de zambas ra kunzo ani phama da susugi kuryu la shukchembo tengi oro asta ani te in zamba ani nganzo gi nangba don de shenas ra susugi lo di chue ra tela ani shukjap kore sungyo oro as ta chibada ani manja den de inas ra phama da kuryu ra kuryu gi shukjen wala tsar goro as cheza ani kunzo da 파마다 아니 쿠류기 슈젠와네 아니 동년 양게 나스라
파마기 그런 누구들라 그래.
다 침상 참디메 조다고다 덴데로 아니 쿠류 코랑 마진다 다 덴데라 지조든데라 지바만자데즈라 아니 콘솔라 아니 수수수로 쭈고레라 나라 까모레기로 와스 가지는 콘조 쿠류라 덴데레 아니 파마라양 덴데로 와스 지상 콘조 셈나라 레와 치슈데 가레 파마라 주와 땅토나스 라
알레 파마 줘방에 맞이나 딘데 부구디 파마게 롤 줘야 땅토나
파마 코랑 주와 탭나스 다 수수기 땅마토나 파마 주와 탭나스 데나신 수수기 쿠리우디 주와 탭나스 베기 레와치슈 디로와스 아니 딘데 다 탑시로 콘소 유나 다랑으로 와스 제자이나 낭바이람나스라다 수수기 로드 주고레 송교로와스 제자다 부구 차심베 부고다 만자로 살 심바든데 이나스라 이 콘솔랑한 저기다 대자 간이 튀기요 나스라 동네 지에라 탑 다가랑기 딱다 되게요 말와스 지산델라 탑 동네 지에기 탑시로 가리송기요 나스
근데 파마 주방에 버러지 다 부고 만자로 부고디 디올라 파마올라 강이 냥데 오라 인디가라다 부고 코랑에 셈바 쪄 왔잖니 되게 민두스 파마게 셈 좋았던 것도 나와라 근데 여르다 간저 중반을 근데 가시도 파마 주방에 봐시라 야 부고 약거든 근데 인디가라 아니 부고기 제라 파마라 파 섭수제디 근데 여르더라 지다 파마이네 코라코라게 딸 내가 노트북 붙여와이나 주말 안에 가도 지문도듯이 근데 제임들은 로 쪼고라 참아라 소소소소 로여라 인디가라다 따든데 주엘라 탑시 가래열나 소소기 지금 대로와이나래 미자라 장와이나래 딘데운 데히데 라 소소로 주엘라 없는 소소기 냠뇨 나님만 나라 엔데지 지기 주말 엔데 챤데 딘데 펜도 둘라네 야 파마라 발합체티야 라
정말 디티와디라고
때말
부구 춘주이나라
춘주들아
당안저로이나 강예테나 지금 마징기 롱발라 유나레 라 아니 지 강예테나라 수수기 강니디 돈네 체토엘라라 야라강가 강예디가 파유구마라 네당갈라 수수기 오 레줌데 레라네 삼로당사 수수기 삼로당다 주와치 땅토고도
나래래
안조 미 gem바라
네
다 부구 춘주이나 만자다 부구 춘주다데나 건조 삼로든데 코르기 호랑 마로와
다 밤에 두부따데나 데 두부 냥데 고로라
파마 파수 참보메나 라 디나시 마징기 롱바데 지나라 부구지나 수수기다 오 마징 롱바게르디 녜레레로 삼삼데데 로지데데 케토고 마로와
네네네
제자니 낭바이셔나다 로디기 로지데 소소기 중고레 로디 소소기 주와 땅고레 송겨로와 제자 부구든데 차르데도 좀바 부구 차레레디 다 케침보로
네네
직 최대한찬에 나레 삼감전에 차레 케침보로 왔어 제자 부구든데 다
든데기 부구지 통하나 간저기 들을 합작하죠
나절라 부구 코랑
부코랑에서는 갔다 오래서
부구 코랑기 디칸데스 도네치도 그래서
아네 부구들이
So, just to make sure, your question was with regards to how the children themselves can overcome the challenges that they face in the form of suffering in a household or in their environment and so forth.
Because it's all about taking personal responsibility for our suffering, but for a child to take such a responsibility, it's not that easy.
Tilawarta susugi semgi gyenra bujura ngazo nangpa thone shina susu rangi kurdu long oros moros pugu chunju jigi dende kurdu long to maros chezan khonzo gi di donglen kan de chegor yes
부고디기 돌려셔라 ngazu 콜 팔 돌려셔도 하고라
nanzu pugu di korang
korang 돌려
donglen
간다
kan de chegor
데데
땡 nanzu mi gemana shishejo roshena kogi di chetugo maros
데데 간다
So Geshema is trying to understand whether you are saying how can the children themselves overcome the challenging environment or the situations that they find themselves, or how we as adults can help them overcome these challenges better.
And in part, they would be dealing with their emotions, right? Of course, the primary responsibility has to be them dealing with it, and definitely us assisting them, maybe as a professional.
다 니자 로질레기 여러왔래 만족이 콘솔로 롭소 간데 자고래라지 다 차지그라스 이나야 조디다 투구 코랑 라 투구 코랑
지나가서 엔디 땅문디가라 부구 춘주가라 강에 되는 다는 파마게 지금 차나 마찬가지나 텐션 자나 마찬가지나 마투미게 다 가리는 강에 티 디주고 부구디 슈마에 참고차도 코 타버르다 내가 가르치는 지투니로 야다 가지 로심이 유지를 마체 강에 지투는데 들 돈에 제투에 가 베드 가가다 다 보고 춘주지길라 강에 지테만이 파마에 서저 아버지 고야 무슨 소바차냐 때운데 슈마에 참고차도 그 강에 때스테와다 베드 거라 사유는데 봐 강에 참고치 초되니 데레지 차야지도 봐. 다 딜랑아 저기 랍자 가르자고라나 다 드네게 강에 테디인들라 다 강에 대 미스 간자 되기 말 가리나 마투이나 메게나 남미 참마자 잠자 찌보는 잠자 두보르 가리나 용고라 다 코랄라던데 네ገብ들레 강에 지 티데고다 다 마음바이나 칼리 조아지 두그레스 봐 근데 라자자 아니 지도서 가서 팔라자자나 빠서제 자참부쳐고르 디처럼 지볼레 용조 말에 미심발에 되네 강에 마보르라 센수치야더라.
So then as adults the best kind of help that we can offer such children suffering in such conditions is to ensure that they have the emotional support that they need in facing the challenges that they have in their lives, to kind of ensure that we offer the emotional support so that they do not become discouraged and demotivated in living their lives. This is the best form of support that we can offer, to offer them emotional support. Now, since this very emotional support is lacking in many cases, on top of that, there are external conditions which makes life difficult for children in war-torn areas, from poor financial backgrounds, in households where the parents are not in the best of relationships, and so forth. So when we look at these cases, then when we compare it, for example, there are children who grow up in very, very poor conditions without too much support. And then there are children who are born to wealthy parents, have all of their needs taken care of. And when we look at how they grow up as adults, then we notice that there is a difference in these two children who grow up to be adults. Even though many children sadly become demotivated and then lose their way in their lives, those who come from challenging backgrounds. But there are many examples of these children who grow up to be strongly motivated individuals, well-rounded individuals, who are able to overcome any kind of challenges that they face head-on. Whereas it is the case that children who are born to wealthy parents, have all their needs taken care of, when they grow up, they do not really grow up to be well-rounded individuals. That when they face the slightest challenge in their lives, they fold under pressure. They are not able to kind of process the adverse situations at all. So herein, where exactly does this difference come from? It comes from how the child reacts to the challenging situations that they face. So it comes from that mental strength that is developed, not from external factors.
Chidi nga su kar thong gudla na shilo nga su shilo dhanda di dhanda tangpo long di nyi bugu dhanda ra kura zala nyi je tulu jige machaya ju kuya mara kashi chapal do dhile kuya minda ra kala ina nyi je nima nima long sa gore dhando ina tabi na chi chupu do da mi nyage jige bugu da di dagi chowu nyang di nyi bugu nyi da kuni nyamdo nga wa ina chi nima chasa da rido dhini zago na kange dolen che shimba di njada she 가서 그 녀만 답해도 그 정다를 스테디라 칼라나 코로코라기 답할 텐데 강에들 봐 돈에 지투해지라 근데 그 강제 막 가도 오는 도도 심바디 베드 거를 한고 약보 짠자 그배 예사 약보 짠자된 코실로테스 던다 강에 베드 거를 강에들 봐 돈에 제마트는 베 녀바 차례 제인가 안 된대지 가리면서 라 녀마 답은 녀음 되는데 나서 되는다
So let us look at this example. As we go about the streets, we notice that there are beggars on the street, and these beggars, they have children, and we run into them. And now let's say that a child of a beggar and a child who comes from a well-to-do family. Now, if these two children were sent on a trek of some sort to climb a mountain, then who will be able to mentally face this challenge of going on a trek better? Then it is indeed the case that the child of the beggar, wouldn't mind walking about barefoot, climbing the mountain barefoot, and where else the child who comes from a well-to-do family becomes irritated at the slightest kind of disturbance that they face. So what does it highlight? It highlights the importance of mental strength, mental outlook that is cultivated through experience. Questions?
Yeah.
The
So
which verse was it? 13th. So when you know that appearances dispel the extreme of existence, while the extreme of nothingness is eliminated by emptiness. Were we able to make sense of these two verses first? Okay.
I don't mind another explanation.
And then you also come to know how emptiness arises as cause and effect. And then you will be immune to any view entailing clinging to extremes. 단당 속에
하와이 타세요. 또 메타세요.
어떻게 나와 여기서 동해 메타세요. 아니 동이 이니 준제를 해줘라.
저던 저 지기네.
어디 지소난다.
이제 또 유튜브 미니로.
동이 찍디 간데래.
동반이래. 돈이 찍거래.
말해. 동이 나와 여타세스라. 동해 메타세 디제기 찍디.
네. 주단 제부. 차류 치시네스라. 시나. 아니 탄제따 유튜브 미니로. 아.
주다 제부.
시당이 주단 제부래. 내가 ngopu kare ine karmu kare ine jura kol ra causes da juda chela 와 주단 제부 라데다 코기티 칼랑서 리졸트 라 제부 차립치긴 딱 간다 가질 나와서나 추단지 또 가서 타에 유타 세월에 타와장 유바지 라 타와장 유인디가라 진대기 남샤디 테토워 라 계시간서 디 타와장 요 말에 베드코로 똥바똥자 짜와니 요 말이라나 간서 진대기 남샤데 메바차로라 라 진대기 남샤 메바차나 결혼하기 레게 바카스사네 디바 가지치나 계산라도 해야지 근데 말다스 결혼하기 동 데마트바 요 말에 이내야 결혼은 타월고는 간줄래 타니디 유베기 디 띵래야 아니 렌데기 남자디 체투 체여스 드셔거라 미카시 엔사고다 아니 체탄지 똥바니나 아니 간저기 레 준데 가르다 가르 간저 레가 두자 가리나 데 똥바르다스 똥바이나 간저 단데 레ኛ바지 사 아니 수수기 지게 메시 타저 가리네 두자지 체바이나 텔 데브뇽 거야입니다 코 똥바니 레 똥바리도 알아야지라 근데 이 똥바 기스지다 체탄지 데마트 바바 다시 집에서는 예 메바 이나야 지타니디 예비갈 아주 렌데기 나샤도 조투레래
So herein, when we ask the question, how does emptiness arises as cause and effect, it is important to not cherry pick one line, but to make sense of this line within the context of the same verse. So when you know that appearances dispel the extreme of existence, and emptiness the extreme of nothingness is eliminated by emptiness. We have to make sense of this two verses first. So the normal way in which when we first hear about emptiness, we begin to say, okay, emptiness seems to mean that everything is empty. So if everything is empty, then cause and effect is also empty. This is the kind of impression we have. This is a very mistaken notion of emptiness. So we need to know what exactly is, when we say that everything is empty, empty of what first, right? Not empty of itself, empty of inherent existence, empty of being truly existent, empty of objective existence, empty of essential nature, essential existence. So when we understand that it does not mean that things are empty, it means that things are empty of inherent existence. Now it makes more sense. So then now we have to make sense of this emptiness right between the extremes of nothingness and extremes of permanence. So existence herein refers to extremes of permanence. Nothingness refers to extremes of nihilism. So now the normal way in which it will go would be like, okay, since all things are empty or empty of inherent existence, then emptiness dispels the extreme of existence from one way of thinking, and that appearance dispels the extreme of permanent existence. Appearance dispels the extreme of nothingness. Normally we would think about it in this manner, but it is the unique assertion of this prasangika system wherein they flip this to kind of make us contemplate further on emptiness, to say that appearances dispel the extreme of existence, and that emptiness dispels the extreme of nothingness. So it is to help us frame our understanding of emptiness right correctly between these two extremes. So when we understand that emptiness means that things do not have inherent existence, then what reasoning proves that things do not have inherent existence? The reasoning of interdependence on causes and conditions. So then emptiness itself is proved by causes and conditions, by the relationship of causes and conditions. So that's why one should be able to find a correct understanding of emptiness wherein you do not deny the functionality of cause and effect, but to be able to posit the functionality of causes and effect without contradiction within the frame of emptiness. So it seems like we had this discussion in the winter retreat, which ran for like 1.5 months, and it was about Vipassana and Shamatha. So Vipassana, as opposed to the Goenka tradition from the Tibetan Buddhist, mainly deals with emptiness. So people seem to have this idea that the ultimate reality that we talk about is something absolute. But this is not what we mean. And I will give you a small example. We say that things do not have any inherent existence, and that is emptiness. Now, in that analysis, there is through logical reasoning, there is a process of negation, right? We begin to say, this does not exist, this does not exist. So then, now with regards to the discussion that we are having about the extremes, it mainly relates to this, if we kind of talk about it philosophically, that there is an object of negation, right? Which is the inherent existence, a mistaken notion. This must be negated. But the basis of that negation cannot be negated. If we begin to negate the basis of the negation itself, then the analysis cannot be carried forward at all. So then people have the impression through that analysis that maybe emptiness is also something absolute, because they are carrying a wrong investigation wherein they are negating the basis of negation itself rather than the object of negation. And then there is an example that Tsongkhapa uses in his greater text called the Langri, wherein if people begin to insist that emptiness itself is something absolute, then it is like saying this, that if I say that I have no money, okay? Now we have to relate this with emptiness. If I say that I have no money and you understand that, okay, he has no money, then that's perfectly okay. But if I say that I have no money and then you say, give me that no money, then that's like saying that, okay, emptiness is absolute. So it's impossible to kind of make someone understand that emptiness is not absolute, that it itself is dependent on a basis of imputation and so forth.
Did I enjoy just?
Konzo di like the gagjang unzin like ke share ta konzo gi gakshi khorang ma che do na ani chedal hoi yin ra ta gagjang unzin gagja di pha ka gore like ke di she go ra konzo gi ta cheda da ta tha lai de zin
가서기 가지래라 담비되는 다지야 가셔 거 만져 봐 따빙 거라 말이 대응 면제 많이 지지래더라 다서기 시디.
So in this discussion, Geshema is saying that there is a particularly succinct way to kind of understand this, and there is a particular verse which says, unless and until we contact that which is imputed, we cannot begin to negate that which is imputed. So okay, if unless and until we understand what is conceptualized, then we cannot begin to negate that which is conceptualized.
So my question was around the same lines of Dharamshala really places emphasis on conceptual analysis and like this cognitive way of
Rational analysis.
and reasoning. So in trying to put many things together, there's a doubt, there's confusion, there's like this inherent discomfort with, let's say, there's no concept of the ultimate self in Buddhism. Right? There's no concept of the ultimate self in Buddhism.
No.
There's no self. It's only selfless. Right? So which means that me as a being, Geshemas of being, where all just the 5 aggregates. So within this 5 aggregates is the experience of love and compassion and kindness and all of that. And so the path that is put down forth by all these great masters seem to be like within that sense of like you began by saying 5 aggregates are contaminated in nature also. At the same time we are cultivating the sense of love and compassion for other beings. It just brings up a lot of like loose ends, conceptually that is, but on a more practical level it's so much more clearer, like at least the felt sense of it is so much clearer. But that is also within the 5 aggregates. So I'm wondering if there's like any advice like from Geshema to sort of like navigate these conceptual complexities of philosophy while staying rooted in the practice, which is like the breath sometimes happens. I'm not sure if I put it like very straightforward, but probably getting a sense of what I'm trying to say.
motiva der to nganzo tajub dan de dola mambo swing do astina la ani nganzo gi ta Tsongkhapa da ina ani nganzo gi da ani nganzo gi migbe teso la de zamba tokba ra tokba gi chapong ani tongning sum tokwe ba de sungo do asra te song yun de zamba ani nganzo gi khansa gi dangzin la di dangzin de gi mixo la ora da mixo de zo shiba chegore tende song yo ras te song yun de zamba ani nganzo nangba to ne shina tendam gi khansa la ro da tendam gi tha la ji yomar was da yomar was khansa tendam do juba nganzo keling mar was cheza ta di samlo ta yun de zamba chochi ne shi de zamba nganzo gi thag la di sra yana khansa la di ani phumbu nga gi ra phumbu nga la tene ra takbachi tende ji song yo ras ani tenyam도 아니 부모가보 대다스라 부모가보 대다기 녀렌지 주디 레다뇨 모레스 라 따양 부모가보 대다기 아니 땡라랑스라 만족이 아니 취진냠네 주부로 왔다 닝지나 부모가보기 땡라 주부레스라 아니 참바이나 아니 부모가보기 땡라 주부레스라 제잔다 마직 똑박이 차네 마삼로탄 인도점바 딩원에 고란다 디 짜생보레게 도스라 코카보 아니 차보다르게 도스라 다 냠랭기 콘소파 주드zam바니 레라보도 도스다 닝지라도 잠바 카요라이기 페요 봐. 라. 딘데지다 코데보 아니 라트 데보도 왔어. 다 이나야 바 따둑기 시샤네 라. 직도고에나 티츠 고뇨보 라. 딘데지도스 다디 아니 동랭 칸데 체고레 베스라. 기시마 치랑기 쿠란솔라 아니 랍소 람된다.
지다에 다간저 가정 림바지 숨도라 앞에는 연주다 샤세다 또 가만가마테 레라요다 타타 마 돈이레레데 칼칼칸도다 라 근데 인터페나 담봇 칼레나 코라이 간주 카사레디 다레데 칸데 샤올나 품봉가 뭐 카르레 따이 지불어지라 데데질랑 저기 다 다야스나 디샤오라 품봉가 뭐 카르레 땐 따비 지불은 다 카사이로지라 다디 근데 이거 품봉가 뭐 카르레 땐디오레 품봉가 뭐 카르레 땐 따비 지부지오레 티네 페라시기 투바 덴바 투바 랑은 투바 근데 저러는 요마라 제가 먼저 카르레 따르는 키라미 카르나 도가이나 품봉가 뭐 근데질 파테는 가도 도가는 로이 파타샤 주주라 티타샤 주디 게디기 캬와체운데 가라야 먼저 렌데 뇽고와 라 근데기 따바짱이나 공고인지 말아서 매마이나 가도 레 카르사나 계산을라나 말이 뇽고레스라 다원나 티네 뇽니 데페도 라시기 츠투응을 두바지 열라나 요마레스라 타티퍼루로 가서 에너지 샤트워지 고다 라 지단기 따와도 레라보 말아라 남들 가서 실로라 지금 이제다 도시 레라버도 따두고 남자들 파 집어 mambo 쯧라 라 나서 레라버도 시트해지다 말았어 이제 키라이게 레저 어스치에서라 라 디가라 근데 라고 디가라 디갈 따는 키라이게 어스치 장례 따라
So based on this question I get the impression that maybe you have studied Buddhist philosophy a bit. Okay. So then this is the experience of someone who studies Buddhist philosophy, that it is very difficult and complicated. Because even within the classical Buddhist traditions, there is a lot of different interpretations. And now it is the case when we kind of study this kind of text that when we look at first, it talks about developing renunciation, then the awakening mind, then developing the wisdom of emptiness. And there is a reason behind placing them in this order. It is easier for us to generate the first two. The last one is the most difficult to get at. And now to kind of try to give you a simple way of looking at it through our own experience and relating it to the philosophy of emptiness. So when we say that now we are using the example not of thing, but the person we call Tashi, John, whoever. So that's the self of the person. So we say that the self or the person is merely imputed on the basis of the aggregates, the collection of the aggregates. When the collection of the aggregates appears, then the term person, now more specifically a name, Tashi or whatever, is imputed. But when this term is imputed on the collection of the aggregates, we get the idea that this Tashi exists independently of the aggregates. Yes? So we mistakenly impute an objective existence to this term. Yes? Okay, now we understand one of the extremes. We are imputing a permanent existence onto a term which does not exist independently of the aggregates. Okay, now this is one extreme. Now the other extreme is to say that, okay, since the term Tashi does not exist independently of the aggregates, then Tashi as such does not exist at all. So we fall to the extreme of nihilism, wherein you begin to say that nothing exists now. Yes? Now the danger of such an attitude or such a mistaken conception is we are denying reality itself. Because our experience tells us there is a Tashi who does things, who eats, who experiences all of these things. So how do we make sense of this? So we say that even though the term Tashi is imputed on the collection of the aggregates, this does not negate the functionality of the aggregates and the collection of the aggregates. They have all their functions. It does not negate that. So as such, there is a self which is imputed on the collection of the aggregates, but there is no self which exists independently of the aggregates. So that is the object of negation of our rational analysis. That independent self, not the term Tashi, but the independent self that we impute on, that we think is independent of the aggregates. So our understanding of emptiness should be able to posit the functionality of the aggregates in accumulating karma, in experiencing the effects of karma within the framework of the aggregates themselves lacking intrinsic existence. Make sense?
Chi tai khora ge lai da hi je da de le nga za khai lai pen tho thong do lai jra ta tong ba yin ro je da chi dema ma du ba ro je res na khatu san ta san je sa chang sa me ju ro chi so ge sa ra de de pe na nga zo ende ro sam ta tho yin ra pe na chara khun ro la wa yin re me je le ne ba che wa yin re de sam ta a khe ma ta di za dra sam re se pa dema tu ba ne yo ma re do sam na rashi ge le chai da kyo gi chik de le kyo ching na bo ji la ye ji de sam ta le to ko ne ta le dem ba re sha dem ba de ja ko nga le pe chi gla sha di le den je shu chen bo ji che na ra dem ba je wa ina ani ka nge ma thi da ade camera da cha re di che na ta nga zo pa she na re su she na re cha ma thu na ra ji ma ta bo ji re sam na ra she gi chara na control la sa gi mi ti de be shi ro ni ro da ra.
So now, with regards to the concern that you shared, that practically the practices of love and compassion make sense. But when we are talking about relating to the wisdom of emptiness, in our daily lives, then maybe conceptually it proves difficult first to understand it, and then it is difficult to relate this, the benefit of understanding emptiness in our daily lives. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, there is no better antidote than emptiness. For example, if we are really able to come to a correct understanding of emptiness, imagine this. In a conflict that you have with someone, then if someone begins to use harsh words towards you, then what is our reaction? We hold the words that they utter to be inherently harsh first. Then we look at the person as inherently bad. So the concept of emptiness helps us to overcome the stark and strong reaction we have because of holding these as inherently bad and inherently harsh. So by cultivating emptiness, cultivating the correct view of emptiness in our practice, we come to a place wherein we are able to understand that the words that he or she is uttering are not inherently harsh in their nature. The person who is engaging in this action is not inherently bad. They are acting out of, they are acting in this manner due to many different sets of circumstances, conditions, and causes coming together. So when you understand it in this manner, you do not have the same emotional, pronounced reaction to the situation. So this is the kind of effect of emptiness if you are really able to cultivate it meaningfully.
That's all. Shagora.
So let's stop here today. We'll see each other again tomorrow morning. So we end the session with the dedication prayer, page number 31. Chanjo Zenjo Rinpoche Maje Pana Jejoje Jeba Nyamba Membaya Kone Gondo Pewa Sho Pae Jidar Chemba Dai Kundo Zambo Deyan Dejende Deda Kunje Jezon Daloje Gewa Deda Tamje Rato Jawa Tanje Je Ngowa Kanla Chodo Ngabade Dage Gewa Tsawa De Gunjan Zambo Chuchi Rato Ngowarje Simjen Tamje Dage Nindo Tamje Tado Tongwa Dan Chanjo Simba Gana Sujuba Teda Kunji Molam Drupchuji.
That's all.
Okay, thank you everyone.